Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Fosgail Mindset. I'm your host, Myka Kennedy-Stevens, founder and CEO of Fosgail, a coaching and consulting firm specializing in libraries, theological education, and higher education. My goal for this podcast is to share content that focuses on awareness, attitudes, and practices that help cultivate professional well-being for those who seek to support the development of a compassionate and well-informed human society. In this episode, I'm reflecting on potential. My original intent was to explore potential as a way of getting out of siloed thinking. I was going to tie it in to some of the principles I talked about in my book, Integrated Library Planning, which presents a framework for libraries that blends strategic planning with operational planning and evaluation. Exploring potential can help break down the barriers between one mode of thinking and another, building bridges between those compartmentalized spaces our brains construct to help us manage and understand the information we hold. However, my brain had different ideas about developing that thought further. Every time I set my mind to thinking about the topic of potential, my brain was hijacked by another train of thought that's been running a constant circle within me over the past few weeks. What's the connection between potential and possibility? And what might it mean to open possibilities? What I came to realize is that potential and possibility must be grounded in purpose to lead to meaningful transformation and change. Any conversation about potential or possibility will lack significance if it does not also draw on a sense of purpose. Let me explain. First, let's look at the connection between potential and possibility. Potential and possibility are related words that are often used synonymously. Oxford Languages defines potential as an adjective that means, quote, having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future, and the plural of possibility as meaning, quote, unspecified qualities of a promising nature, potential. However, I understand these two terms and their relationship to each other in a more nuanced way. I see possibility as something that flows out of potential, while potential is something that's present and extant, surviving and being shaped by the conditions or circumstances surrounding it. One requires action and imagination to be brought into being. The other is persistent, yet changing and adapting. As someone who naturally defaults to doing and action-oriented tasks when under stress, I think this is part of the reason why I found it uncomfortable to sit with the concept of potential as I contemplated the topic of this podcast. My brain was also more than willing to follow the distraction toward ruminating on possibility, especially after conversations I've had over the past several weeks about Fosgail's tagline, which is open possibilities, and what it means exactly. I'm in the midst of preparing to exhibit at 2 library conferences this summer. This feels like a huge step and rite of passage for me as a small business owner. It's one thing to put yourself out there on social media where people can either react or not to the content that you put out there. You don't have to see them scroll past your content to move on to something that's more interesting. You don't have to watch them avoid eye contact or whisper to a colleague before just walking on by. But exhibiting at a conference offers me an opportunity to talk face-to-face with people, to make new connections, and to hear about their hopes and challenges in a way that's nearly impossible to recreate in a digital landscape. Thinking about it is both exciting and terrifying. The amount of preparation for exhibiting has been a heavier lift psychologically and creatively for me than I expected it to be. It is first and foremost a marketing opportunity, and I've spent the past 15 plus months in a very reflective and intentional space with marketing, thanks to the support of the Better, Bolder, Braver community. Shout out to Francis Fogel. As I contemplated my booth design, giveaways, and lead capturing methods, I found myself returning to questions that I've been trying to answer for months. Who is my audience? What are they looking for? What will this mean to them? Fosgail's tagline, Open Possibilities, has become the lightning rod for a lot of these thoughts and questions. I chose this tagline early in my business development, and it's been on the Fosgail website since the very beginning. I really like it, and I've become rather attached to it, for better or for worse. But what does it really mean? And am I successfully communicating what I mean by it? In order to answer these questions and fully understand what open possibilities means to me, both generally and within the specific context of Fosgail, I have to circle back to purpose. I founded Fosgail because I believe that professionals who desire to infuse their work with values and purpose, who want to inspire positive change in their communities, and who seek to support the development of a compassionate and well-informed human society, deserve to have someone in their corner cheering them on and empowering them to learn, integrate new knowledge, problem solve, and reflect. I gave this coaching and consulting firm the name Fosgail because I believe openness is a key component to fulfilling this purpose. And Fosgail is the Scottish Gaelic word for open. What was initially one of several core values that I use to articulate what inspires and supports Fosgail's mission has become a guiding principle. Finding the roots of openness in Fosgail's purpose now allows me to better understand potential. In clarifying Fosgail's purpose, I have made several decisions that shape our potential as a coaching and consulting firm. Clarity of purpose has carried over into clarity of potential. And this clarity helps me to solidify the aspects of awareness, attitudes, and practices that comprise the Fosgail mindset. It also recently helped me to re-articulate the methodology that I bring to my coaching and consulting approach, which I'm now calling the Flip R approach. The Fosgail mindset and our trademarked Flip R approach to coaching and consulting is not going to resonate with everyone. And you know what? That's okay. Because both of these developments were brought forth by clarifying purpose, and they're evidence of Fosgail's potential to support future clients in their meaningful work. Seeing clearer potential makes it easier to set a strategic direction and open possibilities, which brings me full circle to the question that's been my preoccupation for the last several weeks. What does it mean to open possibilities? If potential is always present, shaped by context and circumstance, then possibility becomes the various paths that might be taken and realized. Possibility flows from potential. It is a thread that may be followed to the next point in time and space, a point in time and space where context and circumstance may be different. Opening possibilities means connecting to a sense of purpose, exploring the potential of the current situation, and imagining all the threads that extend from that potential. Each of these threads leads to a unique possibility. Some may be pursued and reached simultaneously or in tandem, while others might be mutually exclusive. Choosing which threads to follow and acting on that decision is what opens possibilities. And that's where I see Fosgail being most effective as a provider of coaching and consulting services. We can help you discover purpose, explore potential, and open possibilities. Exploring potential can be truly empowering when it's framed by purpose and possibility. Have you ever said, "They had such potential"? Or have you heard someone else saying that phrase? I've heard this phrase too often throughout my life in reference to myself, my friends, my children, or even my children's friends. The usage of the past tense had potential is indicative of the speaker's opinion on choices made by the subject of the phrase, and that opinion is usually a negative one. The implication is that potential has been squandered or lost as a result of choices that were made. When caught on the receiving end of such a statement, the effect on our self-esteem and confidence can be damaging. Life is made up of choices. Each decision we make leads to more choices. Potential is not generated by some choices or decisions and not others. Potential is, full stop. And potential will always be there, no matter which choices we're presented with and which decision we ultimately make. Potential, that extant capacity to become something in the future, persists and changes shape as our future changes shape through our choices and decisions. For example, a person with artistic abilities does not lose their potential by pursuing a career outside of art. They have just as much potential as they did before they made that choice. What has changed, however, is that their potential is now shaped by the context and circumstance of the decision to pursue a career outside of art, instead of being shaped solely by their artistic ability. The same holds true for our work situations, our institutions and organizations. Being in a resource-deprived environment, like an underfunded library or a college with declining enrollment, can be seen as a situation bereft of potential. But in actuality, there's just as much potential in these situations as there is in a resource-rich environment. What is the difference is the context and circumstance that's shaping the potential. Getting caught up in the negative, like focusing on poor choices that were made in the past or fixating on all of the things that are lacking, only amplify the perception that potential is diminished. If we choose instead to fully explore potential and reference that exploration with how we define our purpose, we're empowered to imagine and open possibilities that are within our reach. It's not always easy or straightforward to flip your thinking from one of limited potential to open possibility. As illustrated by my own thought journey, we have to be willing to reflect on purpose, potential, and possibility to uncover the connections and imagine the full spectrum of what the future may hold. I've come up with 5 questions that may help you reflect and recalibrate how you think of purpose, potential, and possibility if you're feeling stuck. First, where is the unexplored potential in this situation? You may believe you've fully mapped out the situation and are aware of all the avenues available to you, but it's always helpful to go back and re-examine. Try looking at the situation from a fresh perspective. Hidden potential might be lying in a place that's not visible to you from your usual vantage point. Second, what possibilities can you imagine? This question encourages you to dream a little. While staying grounded in present realities, visualize possible futures. Use all your senses and think of what you can see, touch, feel, taste, and hear in these possible futures. Third, what would it take to open new possibilities? Once you've imagined some possibilities, think through what skills, resources, and tools might help you to open possibilities. Try to avoid eliminating any possibilities because you don't have the right skills, resources, and tools. This is just about identifying what would support you. Fourth, how does your purpose align with the situation, and where are the points of friction? This is an important reflective question that takes you deeper into what lies underneath potential and possibility. The points of alignment between our purpose and a situation positively affects our perception of potential. The points of friction between our purpose and a situation have a negative effect. If there's more friction than alignment, this may be a signal to focus on potential and possibilities that help realign you or your organization with a sense of purpose. And finally, fifth, with greater awareness of your sense of purpose and the possibilities you imagine, how might you connect with potential to open those possibilities? Harnessing all the potential in a situation can empower you to open amazing possibilities, especially when it is tethered in one direction to a deep sense of purpose and in the other direction to a positively grounded future vision. This is the place to proclaim there's just as much potential here as there was before, and to silence the dissenting voices who would say that potential has been lost. I hope you've enjoyed this reflection. If you did and would like to engage in further conversation, I invite you to join the Fosgail community. It's a membership platform that provides a space for discussion, encouragement, inspiration, and support. The always open, forever free tier is open to anyone who is looking for a safe and supportive space to explore the challenges of leadership in uncertain times and cultivating professional well-being. I hope to see you there. I also encourage you to sign up for Fosgail's newsletter, Field Notes. It goes out monthly and includes prompts for reflection, the latest from our blog and podcast, upcoming opportunities, and behind-the-scenes miscellanea and news from the Fosgail team. Links to join the community and sign up for our newsletter are in the show notes, as well as a link to the blog version of this podcast. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Fosgail Mindset. Do subscribe using your favorite podcast provider so that you can receive new episodes as we drop them. You will definitely want to tune in to our next episode, an extended conversation with author and activist Cynthia Changyet-Levin on the topic of advocacy. Until next time, I hope you find open possibilities.